Welcome to Healthy Living, Healthy Planet Radio, sponsored by EarthX, the world's largest environmental experience, and also sponsored by Natural Awakenings magazine. Live your healthiest life on a healthier planet. Now, here's your host, Bernice Butler.
Welcome to Healthy Living, Healthy Planet Radio today. We are now nearing the end of our fourth season, and we remain just as excited as ever to help you explore and understand that unbreakable relationship between your health and the health of the planet. Here we look at the hottest topics related to our environment and its sustainability and how they affect your health and wellness. Here, issues like climate change, plastic pollution, extreme weather events, and others will meet up with everyday impacts like allergies and asthma, digestive issues and gut health, cancers, lung, heart issues, and more. So listen in today as we explore the last show in our August theme of air pollution and transportation. And today we're going to be talking about the future of transportation and its impact on air quality, looking at renewable energy and electric vehicles, our hope for the future. Now, in this vast tapestry of what we call human progress, few threads are as tightly woven into the fabric of modern life as is transportation. All the way from the horse-drawn carriages of yesteryears to the sleek bullet trains and airborne drones of today, transportation has not only shaped the way we move about, but has also defined the way we interact, the way we work, and the way we live day to day. Yet, as we forge ahead into the 21st century, the very innovations that have enabled us to have remarkable mobility have also cast a shadow on our environment, particularly on the quality of our air. And the urgent need for sustainable transportation solutions has now become undeniable, making the future of transportation a paramount concern for both current and future generations. And the future of transportation is indeed a topic that has been gaining more and more attention in recent years. The transportation sector is indeed one of the largest contributors to our air pollution and greenhouse gas emissions. So why is this issue of such crucial importance, and why should us ordinary people in our everyday lives care about it? Well, the answer lies in the intricate web of interconnectedness that encompasses our lives, our well-being, and the delicate balance of our planet's ecosystems. Air quality, which is a measure of pollutants and particulates suspended in the air we breathe, holds an unquestionable sway over human health. The air we inhale can either invigorate or it can compromise our respiratory systems, playing a pivotal role in the prevalence of diseases like asthma, allergies, cardiovascular ailments, and even lung cancer. And the alarming rise in air pollution levels has transformed many city skylines into murky, gray panoramas, casting a gloomy pall over the horizon of our public health, as well as over the horizon of our homes and our day-to-day goings and comings. Now, enter the beacon of hope, and that is renewable energy and electric vehicles, or EVs. Now, these twin pillars of innovation have emerged as potential saviors in our quest for cleaner air and a sustainable future. The shift toward renewable energy sources such as solar, wind, and hydropower not only reduces our dependence on fossil fuels, but it also helps to curb the emission of greenhouse gases that contribute to climate change. And electric vehicles, with their silent propulsion and zero tailpipe emissions, offer a glimpse into a world where transportation no longer jeopardizes the air we breathe as it currently does. And these technologies hold the potential to mitigate the detrimental effects of our vehicular emissions, therefore transforming bustling streets into corridors of cleaner air and healthier lives. But the significance of this issue extends beyond the realm of statistics and scientific data. It reaches into the heart of our homes, our workplaces, and our communities. The air we breathe knows no boundaries. It seeps into our homes through open windows. It accompanies us coming and going during our daily commutes, and it envelops our loved ones in its invisible embrace. The decisions we make as consumers, as voters, and advocates resonate far, far beyond our individual actions, thus shaping the course of the policy reforms and policy needs, shaping the course of technological advancements, and the overall trajectory of our society. And so as we negotiate the uncharted terrain of the future transportation, our choices today will determine the legacy we leave behind for our future generations. And this exploration today is going to delve into the symbiotic relationship between transportation, air quality, and human well-being. By looking into the promise of renewable energy and electric vehicles, we can unlock a landscape of hope where mobility and sustainability hook up together, leading us toward a future where every breath we take is a testament to progress. It's a testament to resilience and to a world reimagined. This journey is not only for policymakers and scientists or industrialists. It's a journey for you and I, for every individual who shares this planet and has the aspiration for a healthier, cleaner, and more vibrant future existence. Now, this is a lot, but here today to help us unpack and explore this are some experts who are going to make us smarter. We have with us first Lori Bird. Lori is at the World Resources Institute, and she is director of the World Resources Institute U.S. Energy Program and the Polsky Chair for Renewable Energy. Lori leads a team who works with utilities, cities, and other large energy users to decarbonize the electric sector and accelerate transportation electrification. And prior to joining the World Resources Institute, Lori served as a principal analyst in the Markets and Policy Group of the National Renewable Energy Lab, where she worked on clean energy policy, the renewable energy grid integration. She worked on solar programs and green power markets. Lori has authored nearly 150 publications on clean energy, including articles in academic and trade journals such as Energy Policy, the Electricity Journal, and many more. Welcome, Lori, and did I get all of that right?
Yes, thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Thank you so much for making time to join us again. I think you were with us before, and we know you're going to make us smarter. Our other guest is John Boesel. John is the president and CEO of CalSTART. CalSTART is a clean transportation energy organization. And with more than 300 member companies ranging all the way from startups to Fortune 100 companies, CalSTART has organized and mobilized industry support for policies that advance strong vehicle efficiency and emission standards in California and nationally. CalSTART now manages incentive programs for the state of California and distributes approximately $750 million in funds. And in 2021, CalSTART announced a global memorandum of understanding whereby 15 nations committed to strong zero-emission commercial vehicle targets. And over the past 29 years, John has become an expert with extensive experience in building the clean transportation industry sector. Welcome, John. And did I get all of that right?
Bernice, you nailed it. Thank you very much. Really happy to be with you today.
And again, thank you for making time to be with us. And I want to put a fine point on it. Who are some of the members? I just want to make the industry association. Is that vehicle manufacturers, clean energy manufacturers, or both or all?
Great question. Of the 330 or so member companies that are a part of CalSTART, they range from General Motors and Ford to Tesla to FedEx, UPS, and PepsiCo. We've got investors, innovators. It's a great group of companies that are leading this transition to a better transportation future.
So the industry is going to be the transportation industry, but also a lot of electrical providers.
Yeah, no, I think that's really the exciting thing about the future is that we're going to see the vehicles themselves transition to zero emissions. So the vehicles of the future won't have tailpipes. But then we are also working closely with the utilities and the people who operate and supply the grid so that we'll have a completely renewable, resilient grid.
We just have a few minutes to go before we go to break. So I want to start with Lori, though, if you can briefly outline for us the various sources of renewable energy and the estimated current adoption so that our listeners know what we're talking about when we talk about renewable energy. I know we're going to focus in later in the program, but I want to define what we mean by renewable energy for our listeners.
Well, the most common and fastest growing sources of renewable energy are wind and solar energy. There's more than 4.2 million solar energy systems that have been installed in the U.S. today, so pretty wide adoption there. Hydropower is also another large source of renewables that, many of those large hydro plants were built long ago, and we're building some smaller hydro systems today. There's also biomass and geothermal systems that represent a smaller fraction of the renewables that provide electricity generation.
Briefly, can you, if and I don't know that the stats are out there, but very briefly, what percentage is solar, what percentage is wind? Kind of just give us a little percentage in terms of adoption or in use.
Yeah, so about 22% of electricity is generated from renewables. That includes hydro. About 10% of that is wind, and 3.5% of that is solar.
So
interesting. And then the hydro, and then biomass is about 1%, geothermal less than 1%.
So really, I think what you're saying is that wind is the largest renewable in adoption.
Yeah, but solar is growing very quickly, and the projections of solar expansion are very high. And in fact, this year, more solar is expected to come online in terms of capacity than wind.
Indeed. Thank you. That I had always thought solar was the highest. We're going to go ahead and go to break now, and we'll be right back on the other side with Lori Bird with the World Resources Institute and with John Boesel with CalSTART. Thank you all so much. We'll be right back. We want to give a shout out now to our sponsors. That is Natural Awakenings, Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex Magazine, the Green, Healthy, and Sustainable Living Authority for the DFW Metroplex and North Texas communities. Print issues of Natural Awakenings can be found in all H-E-B stores, all natural grocers, Central Market, Sunflower Shops, and many, many other locations, as well as available free for download online at nadallas.com. Check them out. Our other sponsor is Lynn Dental Care. Practicing dentistry for over 38 years with a holistic approach, non-mercury, looking at the whole body. Specializing in periodontics, Dr. Lynn is board certified by the International Academy of Oral Medicine and Toxicology. Check them out at lindentalcare.com. Thank you, sponsors. And now we want to introduce a new sponsor, so to speak, and that is the Plastic Detox Challenge that Healthy Living, Healthy Planet is a part of, and we're certainly encouraging you. We want to encourage everyone, as we have, to join earthday.org in their Plastic Detox Challenge, the purpose of which is to reduce mine, all of our plastic use. And we want to take small steps to avoid single-use plastics like bags, straws, bottles, and packaging. And then share your eco-friendly swaps and inspire others to join the movement on social media using #Plastic Detox. The challenge not only focuses on our individual actions, but also encourages us as participants to spread awareness and inspire others to join the movement. Again, we want to engage, and this is sponsored by earthday.org, and you want to sign on at #Plastic Detox Challenge. Thank you. Welcome back to Healthy Living, Healthy Planet Radio today. For our last show in our August series on air quality and transportation. And today we're focusing in on the future of transportation and its impact on air quality, looking at renewable energy and electric vehicles as our hope for the future. And we are back with Lori Bird at the World Resources Institute and with John Boesel, who is president and CEO of CalSTART, which is a clean transportation energy organization. And again, thank you all for being with us. Now, right before the break, Lori was kind of outlining for us the various sources of renewable energy. And I believe, Lori, that you stated that approximately 22% of energy usage is renewable, with most of that, the largest component of that, even though it's not that large, the largest component of that being wind, and that it's expected that solar will overtake that.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. I don't think solar is going to So more solar is expected to come
Okay.
online.
Not to
this year
overtake,
than
just
wind.
more of it coming.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And so what is that more solar comes on? Is that 22% going to raise to 25 estimated, or 30 or 40 or?
Yes, I mean the goal is to increase that number, up to 60% perhaps,
Yeah.
in the coming years, and it'll take some time to get there. I think the new federal incentives for clean energy are really going to increase the rates of installation of these technologies over time. So we've seen a big surge in planned projects. But we do have some barriers, I think, to making sure that we can build everything rapidly, just so that we can get everything connected to the grid.
And what are those
online,
major
and that we can
barriers?
get
And I know connecting to the grid is an issue.
Yeah, building and siting and permitting projects also can take some time, and getting them interconnected to the grid. I think those are some of the concerns. We've also seen some supply chain challenges in the industry that some of those are starting to ease, but we're still seeing some of that. Some of it started during COVID, and some things are better, but still there's some challenges that remain there.
And I want to sit here for just a moment, which I had not planned on, but I think it's really important, if you can, Lori, to kind of connect the dots and walk us through how the power gets from that windmill out in West Texas or in California to people's homes. And my add-on question there is, all of that wind power being generated by Texas and California, is that going to other parts of the nation or just in those two states?
Yeah, so Texas does have its own interconnection. So a lot of the electricity that's generated within ERCOT stays within the region. So there are some limited interconnections with the other parts of the country, but the rest of the U.S. is divided into the Western and Eastern interconnect, and also we've got these power markets. So it sort of depends where you are in the U.S., how exactly that works. But essentially, if you have a wind farm in West Texas, it's connected to the transmission system. It's transmitting the power to the cities where all the people are using a lot of electricity, and then it goes through the distribution system, which brings it to people's homes.
And it's similar for solar, for instances where people don't have the panels on top of their house. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think solar is really interesting because it can be done at so many different scales. You can put it on your rooftop. You can also do community solar, which are smaller projects that are based in your community, and you might be able to go see them.
How popular, by the way, community solar, is that? Are we seeing growth in that?
Yes, tremendous growth in community solar, and I think there's a lot of in federal incentives to encourage its growth going forward. So I think we're going to continue to see substantial growth in that in coming years.
Now, I was going to do it at the end of our show, but since we're talking about it, we might as well talk about it now. And that is some of the incentives, because that's a big deal. Can you tell us really briefly how individuals can benefit and will benefit from this, even though some incentives are individual, some are not, but at the end of the day, we everyday folks are still going to benefit from it. Can you tell us about that briefly?
Yeah. Well, I do want to just say it's the largest climate and clean energy legislation that we've seen in U.S. history. So it's an incredible step towards trying to move towards clean energy and provide incentives for it. And another interesting thing is that those incentives are available for 10 years. So, which we've never had that kind of certainty in the past before. So that's really exciting, and it provides us with a great opportunity to scale these technologies. For homeowners, you could be installing solar panels on your house. You can get a 30% tax credit for that. There are up to $8,000 in rebates for heat pumps. You can get $7,500 in federal tax credits for electric vehicles. Not all vehicles meet the requirements to be eligible for those, and some only get half of it. But those for vehicles that are eligible for the credits, that's feasible as well. So those are some of the most exciting things. There's also funding for doing electric panel upgrades in your home. So about $4,000 in rebates for home electrical upgrades.
I want to go back, though, to solar. You said that there's 30% rebate. Can you give us just some estimates of costs? Like what's an estimate of solar installation? And then you put that 30%. I think I'm trying to get people to be able to kind of visualize that or see it in their mind's eye.
Yeah, so it really depends how large of a system you want to put on your home and where you're located. But it's like $10,000 to $15,000 essentially.
Okay, yeah, that's what I just want to throw out some numbers. 10 to 15,000, and then you get about a 30% credit on that.
Yeah.
And probably when you compare that to what my friends are telling me this month and last month, $600 a month light bills, that can pay for itself pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, the systems can last. Usually they have warranties for about 20 years. Some have 25-year lifetimes. You might have to replace your inverter, but they're going to last for a really long time. So you can pay for the system and, get free energy after it's all paid for.
I want to move to John now, though. John, can you tell us what have been the primary drivers for getting the transportation industry to clean up its own sector, which is what CalStarts does? What was the impetus? What caused all of that?
Yeah, great question, Bernice. I think, we started our organization about 30 years ago, and I think at that time it was a smog and getting the air healthy for everybody was the primary driver. But not too long thereafter, we all started to really understand the impact of climate change and that transportation is a big, source of greenhouse gas emissions and causing a lot of the climate change that we're seeing. So I think it's those two, impacts of air quality, air pollution, and global warming that's really causing this tremendous revolution in our transportation system. We had oil and internal combustion engines for 100 years, and not much changed. We did manage to get cleaner, gasoline-powered cars a bit. But now there's this enormous opportunity to completely revolutionize the vehicles, and it's everything from a bike up to a semi, and then also the power that it relies on. So it's a super exciting time, and both environmentally and economically for the United States.
Now, speaking of economics, though, and I know that has been initially a challenge and certainly a concern with the transportation industry, especially the auto manufacturers early on, was the economics associated with manufacturing electric vehicles and the sales price and things like that. I guess I'm asking, how did they get around that? I guess they kind of saw the writing coming on the wall with the legislation, or what really drove them other than the moral imperative?
Yeah, I think it was, a recognition that we needed the right policy to clean up the air, because, of course, from an economic perspective as a nation, a huge cost of air pollution in terms of health impacts and people getting sick. So, that's something we don't factor into the cost of a car or a truck, but it's certainly an overall societal impact. But I think it's, really we saw over the 2010s this tremendous decrease in the cost of batteries. And batteries declined in prices by 90%. It wasn't something that a lot of people foresaw happening. In some ways, I think the electric vehicle industry benefited from the growth of the cell phone industry and the portable electronic industry. Those folks wanted better batteries for cell phones and laptops, and that innovation, that demand then resulted in better batteries and cheaper batteries that we could put into electric cars and trucks.
That is so cool and such good information to know. We never would have thought it. But technological advances that were initially pioneered in that other industry has really been able to drive and be helpful for us in terms of driving down that cost of electric vehicles. Really cool. We're going to go to break now, and we'll be right back on the other side with Lori Bird at the World Resources Institute and with John Boesel at CalStart. And they really are making us smarter, and we're going to get even smarter when we come back. Thank you all. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Healthy Living, Healthy Planet Radio, to today's show on air quality and transportation. This is the last of our August series on this theme, and we're focusing in today on the future of transportation and its impact on air quality, looking at renewable energy and electric vehicles, our hope for the future. And we are back with Lori Bird at the World Resources Institute and John Boesel at CalSTART. And again, thank you all so much for being with us. I want to go back now to Lori. Though, Lori, how do you envision the future of transportation considering the advancements in electric and autonomous vehicles? And how might these changes influence air quality in our urban areas, which seem to be the worst areas, unless we're talking about Canadian fires or fires someplace, and it's equal opportunity?
Well, I do think we're seeing a real shift in adoption of EVs, right? And I think that's going to continue. We see so many more vehicles on the market today, and they are just improving every year in terms of their range and their ability to charge quickly. The size of the vehicles has increased, and I think they're becoming more mainstream so that folks feel like they can fit their families in the vehicles and all the stuff that they need and so forth, right? I bought an electric vehicle in 2015, and just watching, where we were there, my car has a range of less than 100 miles, right? And now the new models are usually 250 to 300 miles or more, right, for a charge. So it's really exciting just to see the advancement in the vehicles. I think we're just seeing tremendous advancements in how quickly we can charge those vehicles too, and that advancement I think is going to continue over time and how we do that charging. So it has huge implications for air quality in urban areas because, you were talking about the lack of tailpipe emissions, right? You just don't have all of those vehicles in cities in air pollution hotspots creating that additional air pollution, the particulates and the ozone and so forth that we see. And I think it's also important to kind of think through the future and talking about the hot weather that we've seen, these heat events in different regions, right? Those contribute to air pollution substantially, right? They can accelerate the formation of ozone and so forth. And so the shifting to these cleaner vehicles is becoming more critical as we see these kind of heat events and wildfires. We saw the pollution coming down from Canada, the Canadian wildfires hitting New York City and creating major air pollution issues. It hit Colorado as well.
And Lori, though, could you tell us a little bit, though, about the adoption of EVs over the last 10 years? How have you seen the adoption grow, and what are the current and near future projections?
Yeah, so we're starting to see a real surge within the last few years. I think we've seen an uptake in electric vehicles. Last year, there were about almost 1,900,000 plug-in EVs were sold in the U.S., and that was about a 50% increase from the year before. And the year before was a doubling from 2020. So we're really starting to see an uptake in vehicle adoption, right? And I'm starting to see, a lot of folks that I interact with, friends and so forth, who are not in the industry, who are all looking at EVs right now, right? So, and then there are these incentives. Many states have incentives for electric vehicles as well as the federal incentives. So that's kind of driving adoption. But I think a lot of it is just the types of vehicles that we're seeing now and the range that people are not so worried about the limitations of those vehicles. So, so I think we're going to see continued growth, right? I mean, and we're seeing mainstreaming of this. GM has announced that they're going to shift to all making just EVs by 2035, right? So that was a major announcement that we have seen. And so the auto manufacturers are really moving this quickly and taking it very seriously.
John, as a representative of the industry, what are their stated goals in terms of the adoption of EVs? It looks like every manufacturer in just about every model they have now has an electric version. So how are they looking at that, and what are their projections for the near future for EV adoption?
Yeah, Bernice, I think here in the U.S. on the car side, I think we're looking at, by 2030, 50% of all new vehicles sold will be zero emission, when most of those being battery electric cars. There are companies like Toyota that still believe that you can do a hydrogen fuel cell car, which is also got zero emission, but I think most of it will be the battery electric cars. So I think those are the kind of numbers by 2030 we'll see. And From a climate perspective, California and now 17 other states are shooting for 100% of all new cars sold be zero emission by 2035, just 5 years later. And I think, if nationally we can rally around that target, that would really be helpful. That's the level, the type of change that we need to see to really get our arms around the whole global warming threat.
Is there any statistic out there that gives us some insight into when, not if, but when we achieve 50% of our vehicles on the road are zero emissions? At that time, what will be the impact on climate change? We know there'll be an impact for sure, and a big one. But I'm just asking, are there any estimates or statistics on what that impact might be?
I think that the latest science is that suggests that climate change is happening a lot faster than we had hoped. So we need, by 2030, we really need like 50% reduction in total emissions. So that means we need to clean up the grid. We need to reduce emissions from manufacturing plants. Homes need to get more efficient. We need to use less energy at homes. And then we really need to transform the transportation sector. So it's unfortunately we're having to do all this at a faster pace than ideally we would. But that's what the science is telling us.
Now, John, with the growth of urban air mobility and the development of things like flying taxis that are getting attention, what are the potential environmental consequences of some of these new modes of transportation that have been dreamed about, talked about, and maybe being worked upon? And how can their impact on air quality be minimized?
Yeah, good question, Bernice. I think one of the really exciting things about this whole transformation is that since President Nixon signed the Clean Air Act into law, we've never, as a nation, met the federal air quality standards. And it's, primarily been impacting low and middle income people. Upper income people tend to live in areas where the air quality is cleaner. So as we shift to zero emission transportation and we do away with coal-fired power plants, we move to solar and wind, we're going to really clean up urban air quality for the first time. And I think, we can be looking into the 2030s at a point when, as a nation, we could actually be finally in achievement in compliance with the federal air quality standards. And that's just with the ground vehicles. And then now you're mentioning a bunch of exciting new opportunities of flying cars and automated vehicles. I think there's a possibility for those vehicles. I think that there's an opportunity with short range electric airplanes that are really interesting, and I think we should definitely be pursuing them. But I think 2030s and beyond, we're still going to be relying mostly on the kind of vehicles we see out there today, but hopefully just powered by a much cleaner energy source than dirty diesel and gasoline today.
Indeed, and we just have a minute to go before break. So really briefly, John, beyond cleaner air, what are some other benefits of zero-emission vehicles that we don't talk about or people may not know or we miss?
I love that question. It basically, we're going to be able to take control of our energy future. Still today, we are reliant on foreign oil. We're seeing the impacts of Russia's geopolitical games. And if we do this right, we can produce all the energy we need for our transportation system right here in the United States. So we take control of our energy future. We say goodbye to OPEC. We make OPEC irrelevant. Then we really, by addressing the climate threat, we really give nature a chance to survive and thrive. If we don't address that climate threat, then really nature and wildlife is at risk, not to mention life here on planet Earth being a lot more uncomfortable for us humans as well. So I think it's a great opportunity to address the climate threat, but along the way, we not only make our energy future more secure, but we create hundreds of thousands of great jobs building electric vehicles, batteries, and the future transportation system.
Indeed. Thank you for that. Just a few seconds, Lori, if you can weigh in on that from the science standpoint of what other benefits are maybe out there that come from zero emission vehicles.
Yeah, I think it's really great to point out the manufacturing and the jobs that John mentioned this, but we are seeing a lot of announcements about manufacturing facilities across the U.S. and the jobs associated with those, and that's being driven in part by the Inflation Reduction Act. And we haven't seen that, right? We've been seeing declines in manufacturing, so now we're seeing a lot of announcements for battery manufacturing facilities as well as wind and solar and other clean energy technologies. So I think that's really exciting.
Cool.
Well,
that whole growth in that clean energy manufacturing and employment sector. Thank you all. We're going to go to break now. We'll be right back on the other side with Lori Bird at the World Resources Institute and John Boesel with CalSTART. Thank you all. We want to give a shout out now to our sponsors. That is Natural Awakenings, Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex Magazine, the Green, Healthy, and Sustainable Living Authority for the DFW Metroplex and North Texas communities. Print issues of Natural Awakenings can be found in all H-E-B stores, natural grocers, central markets, sunflower shops, and many, many other locations, as well as available free for download online at nadallas.com. Check them out. Our other sponsor is Lynn Dental Care, practicing dentistry for over 38 years with a holistic approach looking at the whole body. And Nunn Mercury. Specializing in periodontics, Dr. Lynn is board certified by the International Academy of Oral Medicine and Toxicology. Check them out at lynndentalcare.com. And our other sponsor is the Plastic Detox Challenge that is organized by earthday.org between now and Earth Day in April 2024. The Plastic Detox Challenge, the whole purpose is to reduce our plastic use. It's about taking small steps to avoid single-use plastics like bags, straws, bottles, and packaging, and then share our eco-friendly swaps and inspire others to join the movement on social media using hashtag Plastic Detox. The challenge is not only for individuals and individual actions, but also encourages each of us to spread the awareness and inspire others to join the movement by engaging along with earthday.org. And again, it's hashtag Plastic Detox Challenge. Thank you all. Welcome back to Healthy Living, Healthy Planet Radio, to the last of our August shows on air pollution and transportation. And today we're focusing in on the future of transportation and its impact on air quality. Looking at renewable energy and electric vehicles, our hope for the future. And we are back with Lori Bird at the World Resources Institute and John Boesel at CalSTART. And they really are making us smarter. So I want to jump in now to this last segment with Lori. Now, Lori, infrastructure development obviously plays a crucial role in shaping transportation and air quality, fossil fuel or renewable energies. So how can, though, our city planners, our policymakers, and others involved, how can they design infrastructure to support and encourage sustainable transportation options and to minimize the negative effects on air quality and public health?
Well, there's a lot of emphasis right now on rolling out electric vehicle charging infrastructure. So I kind of jumped straight to that in my thinking, and we're doing some work on in that area. And I think it's a really important topic. It's so timely, right? There's just a need as we're getting real uptick in the adoption of electric vehicles. We need that charging infrastructure in different cities to be able to support the vehicles and also the fast charging network across the country, right? So there's a lot of work being done on that, and there were federal incentives in the bipartisan infrastructure law that was adopted as well to encourage the adoption there. So, states and cities are working fast and furiously on this issue, and I think there's a number of things to keep in mind. As we roll this out, I think there's a lot of interest in trying to make sure that we're thinking about equity and how do we serve multifamily housing entities and underserved populations, and making sure that we roll out this infrastructure in a way that's beneficial to the entire communities, right? So that's something that a lot of cities are grappling with. And I think there's still quite a lot of work to be done there, but having the community voice involved in those discussions, I think, is really important to make sure that the charging infrastructure is located where it needs to be located. There are some things like some of the regions are starting to look at curbside charging and how to do that effectively to make sure that people have access if they to charging if they can't do it at their homes, or other multifamily dedicated charging stations for multifamily housing and things like that. So those are some of the important issues. The other things I think about that are really important with rolling out EV charging infrastructure is the grid, right? We're also trying to think about where we placing all these chargers and how does that work with the grid. And in some cases that can be a bit challenging, particularly if you have these fast chargers that really draw a lot of electricity at once, right? So that's another thing that the utilities are paying a lot of attention to, and we're trying to figure out solutions to optimizing where those go.
Lori, when do you think we'll be able to see electric vehicle charging apparatus at gas stations?
It could be that some entities want to do that. We're actually seeing a lot of the chargers go into places like grocery stores, shopping malls, shopping centers, city facilities, public charging at, rec centers and community buildings and things like that, right? So we've seen a lot of deployment in those areas. And I think John probably can weigh in on this too, because they're doing a lot of work on this topic. But yeah, whether or not we're going to just put them at gas stations, I don't know. It can take a little bit longer. So having, Walmart just announced, very ambitious plans to roll out charging infrastructure and so forth, because, it can take a little bit longer to charge your electric vehicle, and having, being able to do your shopping or go get a cup of coffee or something like that can be beneficial, right? Although those speeds are really getting much, much faster.
The other thing, Lori, too, do we have a sense of how short we are or how many more chargers we need? And that goes to my other question is, are we able to track electric vehicles where the adoption is? Like if we look over where you live in Colorado, do we know how many electric vehicles are on the road in Colorado and where they are, or what cities or areas they are? Because it seems like if we know that, then that can help to inform us about charging infrastructure needs.
Yeah, there's vehicle registration, right? So folks will know where the vehicles are located because they're registered vehicles. And there's also states are tracking this because if they are providing incentives for electric vehicles too, they're also, I think, tracking some of that. We know where the vehicles are. You can see how quickly they're being adopted. There's good data, I think, on all of that. There's good data on all the locations of the chargers too, and there's many really good apps that you can go on and you can see exactly where the chargers are located. You can find the cost of it. You can find whether it's available, right? Like there is information on the charging that's available.
Yeah, John, and that was my question to you too: is how can the industry help to move the ball forward in terms of infrastructure expansion? And again, where are we now with the infrastructure, and where do we need to be in order to really move this ball forward and mitigate climate change?
So, Bernice, I think one really important thing to note right now is that for those folks who have their own homes and can charge at home, the repowering of your vehicle already is a much better experience. You plug in while you're sleeping at nighttime. You take advantage of low-cost electricity. You don't have to go to the gas station. You don't have to use the pump and everything that goes along with that. So that already is a great experience. I think the company that has done so far the best job of figuring out where the cars are going to be and where the chargers should be has been Tesla. They've been super, super smart about it. And that's the reason now why Mercedes, Ford, General Motors, Rivian, Volvo have all said they want to partner up with Tesla, and so that then they can have access to the Tesla network. And then Tesla has said that this year they're going to double the number of chargers that they have. They already have 17,000 around the country, and they plan to double that in a year. It's a big number, but they are capable of doing some really great things. So I do think that we're going to see a rapid build out of the charging network. I think the legislation, the Inflation Reduction Act, that should be renamed something along the World Saving Act or the Climate Protection Act or the Job Creation Act. That does provide incentives for more infrastructure. So I think we're going to see a rapid build out of that infrastructure, not only for cars, but also for trucks and buses as well.
What are the companies like ChargePoint and Blink doing? I've heard about them and known them for a while. I remember really almost 10 years ago, Blink was going around Dallas installing charging stations in office buildings and parking garages. So what are they doing to move us forward?
Well, I think the market's rapidly changing. I think the announcement that Ford and General Motors and others said that they want to go with the Tesla model, that has really changed things. I think the industry is reacting now. I think we'll see a lot of those other manufacturers start providing charging equipment using the Tesla adapter. So I think everybody's adapting, trying to figure out, what the future looks like. But I think if we have more drivers having the Tesla charging experience, that will really help the industry because the Tesla charging experience is very positive.
Laura, you need to weigh in on that one too?
I was just going to comment on home and workplace charging and talk a little bit about like how people use their vehicles. I think John was saying that, most people can charge most effectively at home. And that's true. If you can charge at home, a lot of, very, very high fractions of driving are local, right? And
right.
So that's how they're using their vehicles. And so they may not really need to use charging systems that often, unless they're, going for quite some distance or they just happen to be low and need to use a charger. But like just charging overnight is viable for most people.
I think you're right, Lori, about some of the other places where we're going to see charging pop up. Bernice, one of your sponsors, HEB, is installing chargers at their stores for their customers. And as Lori said, Walmart is going to be doing that at scale at all their stores. And then I also think that employers can really play an important role here by having chargers at the office, because that really helps their employees, particularly those employees who do live in apartments, multi-unit dwellings, allows them to charge at work. And we're just we'll soon be putting out an announcement, but launching a federal program in partnership with the Department of Energy to try to really encourage more employers to sign up and to provide charging at the workplace. So I think that's going to be an important part of this.
I guess I am not convinced that lack of adequate charging is problematic in holding back the industry. I remember 10 or 12 years ago when I was working a lot on electric vehicles, that it was a general sense that was the trope that was used in order to discourage EV adoption. Oh, you can't get an EV. Oh, you shouldn't get an EV because you won't be able to charge it. And based upon what you are telling me now, it is not that problematic. We do need to work on and be intentional about the infrastructure. Looks like we need a standardization, which I'm sure we will get to, but that is not a big drawback. I want to thank you all so very much. You have really made us smarter, given us a lot of information and insights that we don't normally get about electric vehicles and renewable energy. So thank you so much. We are indeed smarter. We have been today with Lori Bird at the World Resources Institute. She is director of their energy programs, and with John Boesel, who is CEO of CalSTART, which is a clean energy transportation industry organization. So again, thank you so much. We're so glad you could join us today. And thank you, listeners, for listening in today to Healthy Living, Healthy Planet Radio. The conversation starts here, but our goal is for it to continue in your home, in your social circles, in your workplaces, at the water cooler, and in the grocery checkout line, so that we can all work together to realize that healthy living is simply not possible without a healthy planet. Our culture is a result of 1 trillion tiny acts taken by billions of people every day, like yourselves. And each of those tiny acts can seem insignificant, but all of them add up, one way or the other, to the change that we each live through. This is your host, Bernice Butler. Thank you, and join us again next week for more Healthy Living, Healthy Planet Radio. And listen to any of our past shows on podcast wherever you get yours. Thank you.